Welcome to the Ambitious Coach Podcast. This is a place where driven, determined coaches learn how to get off the business growth struggle bus and learn how to build a wildly profitable online coaching business. I'm your host, Allison Henderson, corporate dropout to six-figure social media business coach. I'm going to show you how I've been able to create the business of my dreams organically, all through utilizing my social media platforms. So pull up a seat, take some notes, and get ready to see your life and bank account transform. Hello, and welcome back to the Ambitious Coach Podcast. Today's episode is such a goodie. I know a lot of you follow me on Instagram and probably found me on Instagram, but in today's episode, we're going to be talking about TikTok. So my guest, Jenesis, gives us the full lowdown on using TikTok for your coaching business. We can't ignore it's probably been the fastest growing social media platform within the last few years, right? And I really just personally started posting on there recently, and it's largely due to Jenesis and this episode. So if you aren't familiar with her, Jenesis Rose Long is a business development coach helping new coaches package their offers and feel more confident selling their programs on repeat. She shares with you in this episode how to best use TikTok to grow your following and what kind of content to post that can help you attract more of your ideal clients. Okay, let's dive in. Welcome, Jenesis. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Allison. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you. So, Jenesis, tell everybody, who are you and what you're all about?
Yes, thank you. So, hey, everyone. My name is Jenesis Rose Long, and I help new online coaches overcome their fear and anxiety so they feel more confident, authentic, and safe to sell. And I do this because I know that as a new entrepreneur, it can be so hard to know, like, what do I actually sell? How do I sell it? How do I overcome all of those fears of like, do people really want to hear what I have to say? And I have found that it's really helpful to have clarity on what you do so that you can confidently get out there and share your work with other people. And so I just love the work that I get to do with new entrepreneurs, new coaches, new online course creators. That's really my specialty because my background is in education and higher ed. Teaching as well as program development. And so I leverage all of that experience into helping new entrepreneurs get out there and sustain their passion for their business.
Jenesis, we need more people like you. Yes. And we do similar things, but I love just how your content is very, how do I want to put it? It's like, it's broken down so easily and so digestible. Mm-hmm. And that's why I really love consuming everything from you. And I think a lot of new coaches, they start following these bigger coaches or whatever. And sometimes things just don't make sense, or they're like trying to replicate their strategy. Yes. And it's like, not like, no. They're like, their strategy is going to be different. Like our strategy when we first start out is a lot, I guess I said different, but it's just, there's a different strategy behind it. But I know or not deep down, but I know for you are heavily focused on TikTok right now. I know you have a beta round coming out for this new program of yours. I'd love for you to share a little bit about this program and like why TikTok.
Yeah, definitely. So TikTok is something that I really got into because I have ADHD and I was diagnosed when I was 28. And so I lived, a 28-year-long life, not knowing that that's what was going on and just finding a ton of ways to cope with it. And one of those coping mechanisms for me was TikTok. And I just loved it. I was the first of all my friends groups to be kind of obsessed with it, spending hours and hours and hours scrolling TikTok because it just works so well for me and my brain. I can pop on, I can learn a couple things and be done. It's not quite the same as YouTube, right? Where I feel like I need to sit down and watch a 10-minute whole long training. 10 minutes sounds so short for some people, but for me, that is incredibly long. And so I love the short form content that is on TikTok. And over time, I found that it is such a powerful algorithm that you can engage on TikTok for just a couple hours and it will know you better than you know yourself. It is almost creepy, but also fantastic. And so as I was exploring this personally, I was, still using Instagram, still using Facebook, still running Facebook ads, still using Pinterest and Google ads and all these other things for my business. But I also was just watching how TikTok worked. That's kind of how I like to learn things, is like engage a little, watch how it works, and then make a decision. And so after a while, I was like, let me actually start creating on TikTok and build up an account and see what I learn about how to actually build an account, but not from my business yet. And so I started a sub brand that is Child-Free Dog Mom. And it's basically who I am personally as more of an influencer, less of my business identity as a coach. And so I built up that account to over 1,000 followers. I think I just hit like 1,140 or 50 or something like that. And so it keeps growing, about 15 new followers a week, which I have not seen this consistent of growth on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest either in follows for like 3 years. The algorithm just kind of changed. It's so different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I was just getting burnt out, and so I wasn't willing to change too on those platforms, or if it just wasn't as well matched. But for me, TikTok is like my favorite place to be. It's what I'm using the most these days. And so after building it up, I realized like, oh, I could definitely be using this for my business too. And so I started being more intentional with the content I was putting out and really aiming for goals. Because at first, I think I got up to like 600 followers, just honestly like messing around, not being intentional with it. And then once I realized like, okay, there's definitely like growth potential here, I started setting goals for myself of how many TikToks I'd be posting and what kind of content I would put into it. And that I would use call to actions and think about hooks and hashtags and all those different pieces that I actually teach in my TikTok training course that I am about to launch, because I realized like it is the fastest growing platform in 2022. And yet I wasn't being intentional with it. Like, what the heck? And then that's when I really saw like nearly double my followers. And like I said, every week, 15 or more new followers. So it really is just the place that I love engaging the most. And part of my business brand of sustaining your passion, it's so important to know what brings you joy. Where do you actually like creating content? And then do that. And so I'm really excited to be merging all of these lessons I've gained from building my personal brand into the business world and helping new coaches and new online course creators build up their TikToks so that they can also make more sales and get more followers and all those good things.
Oh, I love that. I personally to share my little TikTok story. I did it for like 2 weeks. Like I did it for like 2 weeks. I was like, like I felt like it was just like another thing. And like it wasn't that it didn't bring me joy, because I honestly like recording videos, and I do this for my Instagram page, right? It's not like it's like odd for me to like record a little training or like a tidbit or a tactic or something, right? So for this person that's like, oh my God, I have to do more things, or I have to add this on to my plate. Like, what would you suggest to them right now? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I would say that it's probably feeling harder because you're thinking you need to create something else, right? Like you even said, like it's something more, right? Something else I have to do. And what I would challenge back or advise back would be, you could probably repurpose something you're already creating. So if you're on another platform, like you mentioned, Instagram, right? If you're posting Instagram Reels, why not get essentially more like highway mileage out of that same video and go post it over on TikTok? Why only keep it on the one platform when you already created it there, when it could take you maybe 2 minutes, right, to download that video, pop it up on TikTok? You might have to create some new captions. That's one little hiccup that happens sometimes, is it doesn't save between platforms. So you might have to recreate your automated captions. But again, that's literally just like clicking a button and letting it do its thing and then posting it, and let the TikTok algorithm push out your video to the right people. Even if you don't want to get into all the hashtags and things like that, like if you're not leveraging them on Instagram and that just feels like one more extra thing, like don't bother, just get started, because the words you say in your video are being AI'd basically. So their algorithm listens to every word you're saying and will naturally put you in front of the right people, even if you don't use hashtags. So there is just so much that you could be getting out of repurposing your same content over on TikTok. And you mentioned, some trainings and being on video, right? I don't know that I feel like I see your face all over on Instagram. So I'm guessing you do a lot of video of you, but you can also do video of like your hands typing or like the tree blowing in your backyard or your dog. Like it could be anything that's in the video. And then you just add captions or talk over it with a voiceover of something more specific to your niche. So there are so many ways to reduce that barrier to entry to get on TikTok. And if you're creating somewhere else, I would just really want to encourage you to repurpose and not make it harder for yourself, because you probably could just be slapping those same videos up on TikTok and getting more views.
Thank you for that. Because sometimes I think in my head, I'm always like, but like, you know, pretty much like I'm always thinking like both of my audiences, or I guess in my mind, I'm thinking that they're the same audience, but they're not. There's going to be people that are on TikTok that don't know who I am at all, that don't even know I have an Instagram page or anything like that. So I appreciate you kind of bringing some, I guess, making that little mindset shift for me. So I guess going back to like doing these videos, right? Like obviously I have, my face is like all over Instagram. Like you said, like I see you all the time. But like how many videos per week or per day would you suggest if you want to grow, you know, the 15, new followers a week? Like how many videos would I have to be putting out there?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And this is such a bummer answer, but like, it really depends on your needs.
Right.
Right. Like,
that's who are you trying to serve?
Yeah. But if I were to tell you about my experience, you know, for what it's worth, what I saw is that when I posted one video a day, I actually got less engagement because I was trying to meet this pretty abstract, like not really intrinsically motivated goal. And so I was making content that wasn't great. And it was just because I thought that I had to. And so once I kind of pulled back and was like, okay, well, one a day isn't really doing it for me. What would? And I just let it be fun again. And I just decided like, hey, when I want to post, I'm going to post. And when I have a fun idea, I'm going to roll with it. And when I had other videos, I'm going to share them. And so sometimes I'd post 3 times a day, sometimes nothing for a week because I'd be on vacation. And yet I still saw growth. And that's the part that blows my mind about TikTok is the shelf life, essentially, or like the time that your videos can be shared is so mysterious to me. I have videos from months and months ago that are still trending right now. I have no idea why. They're about my fridge. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like, that's hot right now. And like, that's trending right now. And so that's great that I posted that really good video back then because it's still getting life. But the videos that I just posted because I felt like, oh, I should be posting once a day, or like for a minute, I tried posting 3 a day. And so I was just like pumping out a ton of content. Those videos didn't do great. They didn't speak to people. They weren't filled with emotion. They weren't like eye-catching. They were just kind of checkbox items. And so I would say it depends on your niche, but it also really depends on you. And I think that it is so much more important that you are putting out quality videos than quantity, and that you are really doing what lights you up, because people can feel that. Like, if you make a video that's just like, I'm checking off a box because I need to talk about this because I said I do this today. Like,
yeah, like just a random quote that like nobody really cares about.
Exactly. Or like somebody else's quote that like you don't relate back to like your experience, your client experience. Like, you're not explaining what to do with this information or anything like that. Like, you clearly just like, we're checking a box. And unless you think that that's the way the algorithm works, like, there's no reason for you to be doing that. You're not having fun with it. Your audience doesn't like it. Like, just let yourself off the hook and only create when you are feeling excited and passionate about it. And I promise those videos will do so much better.
And so tell me too, like with Instagram, I know that my shelf life in my mind is really like a 24-hour time period, or like 12 hours. Like, I post it and like, if it doesn't get shared or doesn't get like a ton of traction right away, I can kind of just assume that it's never going to get traction. So I guess like kind of going back, are you saying that like TikTok is like, it could get shared and randomly get like go viral like months or weeks, later?
Yeah. So first off, doesn't that suck about Instagram?
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of nice, like, pretty quickly on feedback of like, okay, that was a dumpster fire, like, whoops. But also it sucks because you could put a lot of great time and energy into a post. And if it happens to be like Thursdays at 12 or whatever those weird like dead times are that you were able to get it posted, and people just aren't on Instagram, you're not going to get that shelf life, right? Like people aren't going to see it. And so even when they are great videos or great posts, you're right, it is pretty short. So what I have found is that, yeah, on TikTok, it is much longer. And so I have this one video. So I grew up very low income. We were evicted a few times. We were living off of food banks and lived out of a car for a minute, like really hard times as a kid. And so growing up, I thought that if you had an ice maker on your fridge, that you were like bougie. Like that was fancy.
Yeah.
Like anything above like the crappy white fridge that like sort of clothed half the time was like impressive to me. And so back in January, my husband and I were able to buy all new appliances for our kitchen, and they were all LG. So they all match and like, they're all stainless steel and amazing. And it just blows my mind that like, this is my fridge. And one of the things that's ridiculous about it, honestly, like it is so unnecessary, is that it makes ice balls in the freezer.
Stop. That's so cool.
It's pretty cool. Like whiskey balls, like those large, like cocktail ones.
Yeah.
2 ice makers, one in the door that's like the normal one, and then these like bougie ice balls. And so I made a TikTok video about it, and I shared that story about like back before it was cool, like my family was living out of a van. And now here I am with this like fancy freezer. What the fuck? And so it was so cool. And it was like 6-7 seconds, super short. And like, I made it because I genuinely felt so freaking grateful and just so in awe of how my life has changed over the last 20 years that it was like, I'm just gonna share this because this was a special moment for me. And at first there was some engagement, and that was cool. And I was like, awesome. Like other people understand that like low income childhood to like, oh my gosh, I can afford cool stuff now journey. Like that's awesome. And then I went to sleep, and I woke up the next day with 6,000 views on it and hundreds of likes and a bunch of comments. And I was just like, well, that's cool. And so engaged that day and was like, this is really fun. Every week since I posted that video months and months ago, it continues to get growth. It gets seen on to new people. It gets new comments. It gets new engagement. I get new followers from it. And it's because, back to that previous point, right? Like when you share stuff that's meaningful to you, it speaks to people, because that's what we want to see in our content. We want to see real stories. We want to connect to people. And so even though I posted that being like, this is just an exciting little moment, I'm going to capture it and share it, whatever, it is still getting engagement and views and new followers. So yeah, it's way longer than Instagram, and it doesn't take, somebody else resharing it or something like that. It takes the algorithm doing work for me to say, hey, this person is now engaged in, exploring their whatever they're connecting it to, like LG fridges or ice balls or I don't know, like childhood poverty or whatever. But they know that my video would be of interest to them. And so it's doing that work for me to get me in front of them months later.
So is there additional strategies to take to get more views or, to get more followers besides literally just sharing content? Like I personally haven't dived deep into TikTok much because I've just been utilizing my Instagram. I mean, that's been working for me now for the past, 4 years. So tell me, like, is there like a different approach? Like I know for me, for Instagram, it is different, but like, obviously hashtags, like, is it the same? Is like similar to Instagram, or I don't know, give me a little bit, I guess, more perspective on that. Cause I really don't know much about it.
Yeah. So just to clarify, your question is other strategies to get more views?
Yeah. Like, like I said, we use, we'll use, the Instagram hashtags. Be like, okay, we'll put hashtags on that'll get shown into that hashtag category and, we'll get more views. Like, so are there other things like that in Instagram or God, I keep saying Instagram or TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, there are. So it's super important to use really catchy hooks and short clips in the first 5 seconds. So the first thing, the hook, what I mean by that is something really attention grabbing. So whether it's a bold statement or an interesting question or something kind of shocking, like for example, that ice balls video, I talked about that, before it was trendy, we lived in a van as a kid. Like that's unusual, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And yet other people also might have seen it and been like, oh shit, we did too. Like what? Like that's relatable too. So in those first 5 seconds, you really need to capture attention with some bold hook. And I really think that you can do this in so many different ways, but even just a fact that's kind of shocking, like 35% of people do this, right? Or whatever. Just say something that is about your content that is relatable and kind of shocking. So you need a hook. Real quick, because people are on there. And if you don't capture their attention real quick, they're swiping away. And the longer that they watch your video, the more your video gets viewed on the FYP, which is the For You page. So the longer people are engaging with your video, the essentially like more credibility you're getting, that the algorithm is thinking, right? Like, oh, people like this video. Let me show it to more people. So you want people to be hooked at the beginning. And then you also want to use short clips. So because you have this visual opportunity, you want to be changing focus. So let's say you have your hook, you do one sentence of your hook with the background being your kitchen. And then the next sentence, you might want to move into your backyard and say your next sentence. And then the next sentence, move into your living room. And the next one, sit by your dog. Like you want to cut it up a bunch.
Okay.
So that there's a visual intrigue of like, what am I seeing here? Where is this person? Because we're taking in so much stimuli in that first couple of seconds. And that can be really engaging for people just to have those short clips. And that is what makes your videos more engaging, which ultimately keeps you watching it longer, which is what TikTok wants, right? Is like they benefit from you creating engaging content too, because it keeps people on their app longer. So you want to be thinking about how do I create really engaging videos that are beautiful and that will keep people watching them. So those are 2 strategies for the beginning of your video. But then a couple other things you can do. So you want to be using the highest quality video recording that your phone or your camera can do. Higher resolution videos do a lot better. So you also want to have good lighting. Typically, that's going to be natural lighting. Literally go stand in front of a window. That is going to be probably your best lighting. Or go stand in some shade under a tree outside. It really just depends on the weather, I suppose, where you're at. But get good lighting. And then, yes, hashtags. So that is a piece that they're kind of shifting a little bit towards more about SEO in general, of your words, your captions, your like closed captions on the screen, but then also like your caption that you wrote, as well as your hashtags. And so if you have the time, right, you could go and research all of those things and be really strategic with it. So you could go look at what are trending hashtags right now in your niche, and you could look up not the super huge ones. It's really similar as as Instagram, where you don't want to be using those like million plus used hashtags, right? Because you don't show up on that feed very long. You want to be using some of those like mid-tier hashtags where they're really niche down. So people are actively looking for you and you're marking your video as like, this is exactly what it's about. So for example, for that ice balls one, it was like LG freezer. And it was very specific, right? Like if you were looking at an LG fridge or freezer, you were going to find my video. Mm-hmm. And so also low income entrepreneur, I think is what I said. And so things like that, you want to be really specific with it. So those are all things you can do. Other things though, is you can have
Tell us
people,
all your secrets, Genesis, please.
I'm just giving it all away. I have like a million ideas here. TikTok is a mystery for people, but I swear it is like a gold mine. Okay, last tip I want to share is that you can have people repost your videos. And so essentially it's kind of like what we do on Instagram, where we take somebody's post and we share it to our story. But you can repost somebody else's video onto your feed, essentially like your story, but all of your followers would see their video. So as you build real relationships with people over time, your friends that you make on TikTok will want to share your videos because you are sharing videos that their audience would also like. And so there is some strategy there of building a network of people that all have similar audiences so that you are sharing each other's videos back and forth. So there's so much and more. There's a million other things I could say about this, which is why I'm teaching that course. I just love talking about this because ultimately it bridges so much valuable connection.
Well, tell everybody, what's this course all about? I'd love to give you full ranks here, or range of whatever the word is. Tell us all about what this offer is all about for you.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm offering a brand new TikTok training course for courageous coaches and course creators. So this is a 5-step course that is all asynchronous. So whenever you're ready to dive in, the trainings are ready and waiting for you. There is scripts to know exactly what to actually say in your videos. There's tips on your actual video content. There's some branding work around your ideal clients and hashtags you could be using. There's a whole training on hooks and sales funnels. And then, of course, the technical pieces of how do I actually make a viral worthy video? So all of the pieces we were just talking about actually walk through and show you in the app and in a few different editors how to create a video that you're really proud of and you want to share with people, because there are a ton of people on TikTok. It is the fastest growing platform in 2022. And a lot of people's clients are on TikTok, but they're not. And so I want to help bridge that gap and get people using TikTok to grow their business. So right now I'm offering a special where it is only $30. And so it is currently October 17th that we're recording. And so I'm not sure how long this $30 deal is going to last, because I really think that this course could be selling for probably $300.
Oh my gosh, 3,000. What are you talking about, girl?
I'm if I have some coaching, we're going to be way up there. So I'm thinking I'll do a tiered model where there's DIY or with some feedback and then with some coaching as well. So that is what it's all about, so that you can grow your business and get on TikTok.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Genesis. Okay. So what are your last words of wisdom here?
Oof. Okay. Let's see. I would say that if you are ready to be sharing what's on your mind, TikTok is a great place to be connecting with people that get you. And I think that that is something, as a neurodivergent entrepreneur, I was always seeking, and I found an amazing community on TikTok that is my people, and yet they're around the world, and we connect in such a cool way that it feels like Snapchatting your best friends or something. And so I just really want to encourage people that TikTok can be used to find your people too, and be bridging real connections and helping people with whatever it is that you teach or you coach on. There is an audience on TikTok. So that would be my final point, is that TikTok is waiting for you. So get on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, you're getting my wheels spinning, because I have so much content that I could repurpose. And so just kind of looking through my phone, looking through my Instagram, hey, what are some stuff I can post this week? To start, even just starting there and then seeing from there too, what are some other videos I can, using trends and all those sort of things too, from Instagram and Facebook. God, I keep saying Instagram, and it's just because I've been on Instagram forever, but seeing the trends on TikTok too. My daughter, so she's 8 going on 9. I sit and watch videos with her all the time. And I'm like, how can this stupid video get hundreds of millions of likes and views? And it's wow, these people are literally just putting out content. And because, like I said, the algorithm, you had already touched on, so many people are on this app and they're just consuming. And because they're short term, or that short form video, they're consuming more and more. And they're staying on this app for a really long time.
Yes.
I'd probably be embarrassed to say how many hours she's probably on this a week.
Me too.
Yeah, right. Like I was like, oh God, you're like on this way too much. So I definitely have had that mindset shift just from listening to you talk today. So I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your words of wisdom. And yeah, guys, please, if you are wanting to do more about, wanting to learn more about TikTok and wanting to be there, and you are looking for a program, please go to Jenesis. Well, yeah. Tell us, where can we find you? Where's the best place?
Yeah. So my website is jenesisrose.com. So JenesisRose.com, and then / TikTok training. So if you find me directly there, or you can look up Jenesis Rose on any social media and you'll find me. I'm pretty much the only one. So it should be fairly easy to find me on any platform.
Oh, thank you, Jenesis. All right, everybody, have a great day and go consume some Jenesis's content on TikTok.
Yes, yay. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Coach podcast today. A couple favors before you go. If you found this episode helpful, please take a screenshot and share it on Instagram. Most importantly, don't forget to tag me at Allison Henderson _coach. That's ALLISON Henderson _coach. And lastly, please take a minute to rate this episode and leave a raving review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Okay, ambition is great, but it's time to get to work. Take action and commit to being 1% better every day. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again next week.